On September 30th, 2005, Danish newspaper Jyllands-Posten printed 12 drawings depicting the Prophet Muhammad. One of these drawings showed the Prophet with a bomb-shaped turban. The problem was that the Islamic religion prohibits any drawings of the Prophet Muhammad, and the drawing depicting the Prophet as a terrorist was highly offensive to the Islamic people. As a result, religious leaders in Saudi Arabia called for a boycott of all Danish products beginning on January 20th, 2006. Many other Islamic groups and nations followed in suit, including Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Oman, Qatar, Algeria, Bahrain, Jordan, Tunisia, Yemen, and many other countries around the Middle East. Almost immediately, Danish products were removed from stores and signs were placed in front of the buildings stating that the store supported the boycott. The targeted companies included the following: Arla Foods, Lego Toys, Dyra Paints, Danfoss Pumps, Lindbergh Eyeglasses, Kuwaiti Danish Dairy, Saudi Dairy and Foodstuff Company, Stan and Olufsen, Novo Nordisk, Auchi Perfume, and Echo Shoes. There were also many more companies impacted by the boycott. Local companies, including Kuwaiti Danish Dairy and Saudi Dairy and Foodstuff Company, suffered losses due to the boycott because they had former but not current ties to Danish companies. People did not realize that the ties were cut almost 20 years before. Arla Foods was one of the biggest impacted companies by the boycott. Arla lost approximately $85 million from January through March of 2006. In response, Arla issued a public apology on March 20th, 2006, stating that the company did not support the comments made by Jyllands-Posten and valued the business of the Islamic people. Almost immediately, stores began stocking shelves with Arla products again after the apology was issued. Adding insult to injury, on February 13th, 2008, 17 Danish newspapers reprinted the cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad with the bomb-shaped turban in response to a plot to kill the cartoon's artist. This sparked a new outrage and a renewed boycott of Danish products. This also included a response by many government leaders in Middle Eastern nations of official denouncement of the nation of Denmark and Danish products. Sudan officially banned the import of all Danish goods. Libya and Iran closed its embassies in Denmark. Egypt summoned the Danish ambassador in Cairo to protest the reprinting of the cartoon. Qatar halted dealings with Danish delegates. Bahrain's parliament formed a committee to enforce the boycott. This renewed protest has had a greater impact on Danish products than the first round of the boycott. To date, no formal apology has been issued by the newspaper.
Guilty by association. Some terms to start with. Pluralist society is a state of society in which members of diverse ethnic, racial, religious, or social groups maintain and develop their traditional culture or special interests within the confines of a common civilization. Religious fundamentalism is usually a religious movement or point of view characterized by a return to fundamental principles, by rigid adherence to those principles, and often by intolerance of other views and opposition. Freedom of speech is the political right to communicate one's opinion and ideas to anyone who is willing to receive them. Self-censorship is the act of censoring or classifying one's own work, blog, book, film, or other means of expression out of fear of or sensibilities of others without overt pressure from any specific party or institution of authority. Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad is the prophet beloved by more than 1.2 billion Muslims. It was to Prophet Muhammad that God revealed the Quran. Global business. Global business consists of transactions that are devised and carried out across national borders to satisfy the objectives of individuals, companies, and organizations. Description of the cartoons. 12 cartoons which made a huge problem for many Danish businesses. Let me briefly talk about them. There was one central cartoon surrounded by 11 smaller ones on a full page. Out of those 12, 2 did not show Muhammad at all. There were several featured cartoonists as characters. The most controversial cartoon, which made a huge discussion, created a lot of discussion among the Muslim world, was a very angry looking Muhammad with his turban in the shape of a bomb with a lit fuse. Muslim world took this cartoon as an insult and took it very personal because the way it was portrayed. Facts. How the boycott started. This is how the boycott started. On September 30, 2005, Denmark's largest newspaper, Jyllands-Posten, printed 12 drawings depicting Prophet Muhammad. In the beginning, Muslim scholars and religious leaders, they just wanted this cartoon to go away and wanted some apology. They considered the cartoons as a crime of aggression against Islamic nation. So they urged the Danish government to denounce the incident and they wanted an apology from the newspaper. Unfortunately, the Danish newspaper refused to apologize. Also, the Danish government did not want to intervene. The newspaper maintained the fact that printing those cartoons were a way to ensure freedom of speech against the radical Islamists. This caused a huge problem for Danish businesses and the relationship of Denmark with Arab world. The Arab media insisted that the publication of the blasphemous cartoons was not freedom of speech, rather it was an insult defamation, and slander. With the global business, it is not only important to have good business products, but country and business leaders must understand the culture and the emotions of another nation and consider that as well. Let us discuss how the cartoons affected the Danish businesses. After the Muslim world failed to get an apology from Denmark and the newspaper, the Middle East and the other Muslim countries decided to boycott Danish goods. Arla Food is one of the largest dairy farm in Europe. They lost an estimated $1.6 million each day in the initial weeks of the boycott. Dairy export dropped 85% in Denmark in February 2006. This boycott only not affected Denmark. Scandinavian tourism to Egypt fell by between 20 to 30% in the first 2 months of 2006. Muslim boycott reduced Denmark's total export by 15.5%.
Arla Foods took immediate action to mitigate the heinous acts of Danish newspaper. The strategy had some positive results, however, it was not enough after the January 2008 incident in which 17 Danish papers reprinted one of the drawings of the Prophet Muhammad. Fortunately, there are 3 alternative strategies that Arla Foods may implement to mitigate any negative implications to their product sales, such as making charitable contributions, emphasizing local connection and impact on local economies, and localizing the market mix. Making charitable contributions. Arla Foods could take action on making charitable contributions to their host countries' local charities, such as Muslim Aid Serving Humanity, which consists of children's sponsorship, feeding the fasting, and donating towards Digging of the Well project. Other forms of charity may consist of agriculture support for dairy farmers and crop growers in the region. An example of a multinational company that adopted this approach and was successful was McDonald's. According to Gajil Knudsen, making charitable contributions to causes that promote welfare in the host country is a commonly used mechanism to portray companies in a positive way. Late quarter of 2000, during the second Palestine uprising against Israel, McDonald's announced that they would make a 26-cent sales contribution of every meal sold during the Islamic holy month of Ramadan to a Palestine children's hospital. This mitigation approach was supported by Prince Michal bin Khalid of Saudi Arabia, who happens to be one of the 2 franchise owners. Furthermore, the Egyptian media reported that McDonald's was reporting profits to Palestine and not Israel, which ruled in McDonald's favor. Emphasizing local connection and impact on local economy. Another strategy that may be implemented is emphasizing local connection and impact on the local economy. Arla Foods may respond by calling out the negative impact the boycott would have on Middle Eastern economy, local business, and its citizens. The boycott would have significant impact on thousands of Middle Eastern employees that are working in various Arla Food Middle Eastern facilities, which are located at Dubai, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. The employees rely on Arla Foods as their source of income to sustain and provide a quality of life for themselves and for their families. An example of a multinational company that implemented this strategy was Coca-Cola. Although Coca-Cola is a global company, the Coca-Cola business in each country is a local business managed by local business people. Coca-Cola relies on local partners for the bottling process. These bottling plants are owned and operated by Middle Eastern business people. Furthermore, they also rely on sales and distributions, which are also managed and operated by local citizens. Coca-Cola and the local business partners employ local citizens to successfully get the final product to the consumer. In an attempt to squash a rumor and avoid a national boycott, Coca-Cola responded immediately to a rumor by emphasizing its local roots. Localizing the market mix. A final corporate response alternative to a boycott is the approach of altering the local market mix. Arla Foods could rebrand themselves specifically for the Middle Eastern market by de-emphasizing the Arla Foods brand. They could introduce a new product that has a strong local flavor which adheres to halal guidelines. Furthermore, Arla Foods could utilize a popular figure to promote the new product. However, it is important to note that the popular figure must relate specifically to the Muslim community. Additionally, Arla Foods could offer a promotional discount so that they may capture the desired market share. This strategy was achieved by McDonald's Egypt. It was adopted during the Palestine uprising against Israel. The company responded by adding mutton falafel to its menu and hiring an Egyptian singer to promote the new product. To de-emphasize corporate brand names and avoid backlash, Man Foods Company became the sole agent of McDonald's in Egypt and is 100% owned by Egyptian investors. This approach was used to avoid the perception of being identified as pro-Israel.
Recommendation. Plan of actions to have Denmark's largest newspaper, Jyllands-Posten, retract their published cartoons and apologize. In January 2006, their cartoons caused financial hardships for several Denmark companies doing business in the Middle East. Dependencies and risk. Major companies such as Arla Foods, Lego Toys, and Danfoss risk a continued boycott in the Middle East. Even once the retraction is done, they must measure key performance indicators to monitor the progress of the boycott. For future review, they need to establish key relationships with government officials and the Middle East. Relationships need to be established with government leaders, local leaders throughout the Middle East. This will help Denmark understand local cultures and the importance of religion in the Middle East. The implementation plan. The primary task is having Jyllands-Posten retract its cartoon drawings of the Prophet Muhammad and issue a formal apology. This will cause an immediate impact and put Danish products back on the shelves. Percentage completed. Denmark must monitor its sales volumes for major companies as a benchmark to determine the recovery and that the boycott has been removed. To monitor the status, Denmark must monitor the sales volumes, specifically of a major company such as Arla, as a key indicator or boycott for before, during, and after. 550 million annual sales in the Middle East before the boycott at Arla. 274 million in annual sales in the Middle East in 2008 during the boycott. After the boycott, total annual sales to be determined. Milestones to establish are key relationships, again with the Middle East and its people. Denmark must regain the country's confidence and reestablish its position as a leading importer of its Danish products. It must also ensure that Jyllands-Posten understands that business and the economic risk associated with those cartoons and the financial crisis for its home companies that it had caused. Accountability plan. Stakeholder engagement. They need to establish key local stakeholders that would benefit from Arla or other Danish products. Having local suppliers Employees and vendors will help build rapport and foster relationships in the Middle East. Goals and progress indicators. They need to measure revenue sales on a weekly basis once the apology is issued. Also measure shelf space on a weekly basis at major stores to measure product sales and availability. They should have visual inspections and use this as a key performance indicator. And this should be done at a local level by an employee of each company to measure growth each week. They should also monitor local trends and religious leaders on a weekly basis for continued relationships. The action, service, and expenditures. The company should use profits to reinvest in local communities, build companies, masses, donate portions of their profits to local charity organizations, and environmental investing. All of these are essential to sustainability for each Denmark company.